So, hey, year one or year 20, growth is important. Doesn't matter when. I've got a couple really special guests with me. We're going to let them introduce themselves. Our guest tonight is what we've done with these is kind of a repeat of years ago. We were doing this, and COVID kind of took us off the beaten path, and we stopped doing these, and we're back. So, with that, I wanted to go in. This isn't a screen on here, but what's the why of tonight? Why do we want to do it? Well, it's a couple different things. We want to showcase these professionals. It's a great way to kind of show how professional detailing is done, how entrepreneurship is done, how it's viewed from different viewpoints, different platforms. Is we're always going to bring in, or I won't say always, but up till now and probably moving forward, our attempt is to bring somebody that's very seasoned, that's been around for a while, that saw a lot of change in the industry, see how they've built, how they've been able to take a sprinkle. Jim's really good at this. I've watched the transformation. Jim's now has a business that's built around his life. So many of us, we build a business and then have to sprinkle our life into it. And where life fits, we kind of go with it. And Jim's been able to take and really build a nice lifestyle with this business over the years. But it didn't start that way. Both of us, almost 20 years ago, Jim, as we've been together now. Justin's, a younger version. He's newer to the industry. We're going to get some key points. And the reason why is you guys all might relate to something different. You might be seasoned and relate to something Justin says as a newer comer. Or you might be new and really relate to something that Jim's saying. And we're going to cover it down of looking down the tunnel. Don't just look. So many of us look at right now. We look at what's going on in our lives, our instant needs of today, tomorrow, Nick, this week, this month. But you gotta, I'm sure it's going to be hit on is Jim, 20 years goes by really quick. And, you can take we look back, Jim and I, see if you remember this conversation, Jim. We were talking about how much the industry changed so quickly. And then during the conversation, you stopped and you said, dude, it wasn't quickly. It was 20 years. It just seemed like it went quickly. Remember that conversation?
Without a doubt. I mean, so much has changed since you and I started,
Oh,
to where it is today. It's just crazy to really think about it.
no, it is. So we're going to jump into that. So that's the why of tonight. We want to thank all of our supporters. This doesn't happen without them. We got a huge list of here. Just take a gander at this at some point. Look at who's backing up the industry. These are brand names that are pushing us all forward, and we're thankful because every single one of these companies tonight they're the reason we're able to do these things. We didn't have this option 20 years ago. This would have never popped up even 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. We wouldn't have seen this level of names. Now we do, and so and a lot of it's due to not me, but a lot of what the Detail Mafia, these two members have done, and it just bleeds out to the whole industry. If you didn't get to watch our last one from last month, matter of fact, it was only almost 30 days ago. It was 28 days ago tonight. How to Survive. If you missed it, make sure to check it out on our YouTube channel. It was a really good one. This one we're going to keep a little shorter. Our goals tonight are simple. Is that we're going to share some simple, no bullshit remedies for business. That's our why. Is we want to give you an insight and have these gentlemen tell their stories, and we're going to have some wisdom laid down with some youthful drive. Is that, and both of those are needed, is that, these young guns of the industry, like Justin, keep the older guns like Jim and I motivated and moving. And then the wisdom that Jim and I can lay down for you guys, well, you know what, that pushes you ahead too. And so some people think, oh man, you young guys, no way. We need that energy. We thrive on that energy. Is that we need to take and have it, and you need that wisdom. Is that it's going to take years, and our hopes is we can fill some wisdom up in a much faster time. We want to cover your needs now, tomorrow, and 20 years out. What's that look like? Remember, it's going to go by fast. Believe it or not, it's going to go by fast. If you want witness to that, just have children. And once anybody that's had children and they get to kindergarten, that first 5 years, it goes by quick. Till they get to kindergarten, then it's lightning fast. Same with business. You think it's going by slow right now, it's kind of meaning. Once you start getting to where your business is really humping, moving, successful, and you got everything else going on, and you're living a life, boy, I'll tell you what, that clock start moving a little quicker as you go. We're going to hopefully miss some potholes. You're going to hear some things, and you're going to give insight on how to get around those potholes, thoughts, theories, and suggestions, and then some closing remarks at the very end. So with that, the silent giant, I've been calling him that, I don't know, for probably 10 years, Jim. This is my pal Jim, our nearly 20 years together. We're going to have some history with or some questions for Jim. This guy's been at it for nearly 40 years. His story and growth are impressive. So with that, Jim, you've already seen these questions. Introduce yourself, your business, some facts about you. Don't leave anything out because I know them.
Thanks. Jim Goguen, Ipswich, Mass. Jim's Auto Installations and Detailing Center. We started out as a car stereo shop and doing window tint and just doing detailing kind of on the side. I worked out of a small gas station. 6 years into it, I moved to a car wash with just a single bay, working out of there and detailing, starting to focus more on detailing everything, still trying to figure things out. I was pretty young at the time, expanded that shop and brought on an employee, which made a huge difference, which is my employee is still currently with me. That was over 20 years ago. And then just recently moved into a new facility. It's really set up for just really detailing, much more room, better lighting, better structure. As you can imagine, car audio business is really almost obsolete at this point, and we're really focused on detailing, ceramic coatings, still doing window tint, we're paintless dent removal. Um, I've been with the IDA since its inception, certified detailer, watercraft. 2021, I was inducted to the IDA Hall of Fame. I've been with Renny for 16 years. I'm probably the longest member with the group and a founding member of the Detail Mafia.
Well, you know what? I think it's been a little longer than 16 years, buddy. Yeah, I think, well, no, you're right. Let's see here. Let's do the math. Yeah, 16 years, 16 years. Unreal. So not only Hall of Fame for, you're a master level detailer, and that's no joke in the mafia. That takes a lot of time and effort. You're one of the founding fathers of the detail mafia. You've laid some, railroad tracks down across the Wild Wild West for the group, and then you're also in the Hall of Fame for the mafia too. And so, founding member of the IDA, Founders Club, a lot of accolades. We could keep going on for titles. You've gotten a lot of trophies through the years at Mobile Tech. Let's talk about the vast difference. You and I, 2008, I think it was our first SEMA together, about that time frame, right? Maybe sooner. 2000. No, it was sooner.
Mobile Tech was before that, so 2008, I think, was the first SEMA.
So it's 2007, 2006 was our first Mobile Tech. 2007, because '08 we couldn't believe how the halls were empty. Remember that? And that first SEMA, where now our party had 600 plus people at it, from the detailing industry, you couldn't gather up 10 people. That's how much
Not
it's
at all.
changed. Mobile Tech, same way. I mean, we could get about a half dozen detailers together, and now look, there's hundreds, thousands, thousands there. And so this man's been at the forefront. So let's talk about the early days. Now, I had a little note here is that started with pagers. Let's go back all the way to the 80s. And
Yeah.
you did something with pagers in your shop even. And so the
So
early days visions you had. Talk about that.
that was really trying to get diversified. And, looking back, I probably should have stayed on that track and tried some different things. Pagers was, in the day, it was actually one of those things. And it didn't bring me customers as far as detailing customers, but it was a profit center once I really got it going and working. And that's kind of, one of the things that you can think about when you're doing detailing or, running the business. Like PDR is a perfect example. I don't actually do it, but I bring somebody in, and it's turned out to be a great profit center without any of my labor at all. It's just finding someone that's reliable and good and then setting it up that way.
So what was your first when you started out? What was your why? Way back when you decided to go out on your own. Car audio was big back in our day, right? It's kind of the in thing. But what was your why, and then why jump into detailing, and then did those how did those first visions turn out compared to now in reality?
You know, I'm not sure the why then was just, it seemed like something fun to do at the time. I'd been doing car audio, and, someone had recommended, oh, you should do detailing while you're waiting for car audio, so we
Hmm.
hung up a sign in the window that said auto detailing. So, and, the star was born, you know.
Wow.
Um, but I mean, I tell a story all the time. I mean, I used to rent my wool pads from Safety Clean. They used to come by and drop off, and swap out. That was the thing back then. Nobody, it's just a lot different, and everything was wool. There was no foam when we started
Yeah.
out. Uh, but
They rented towels too. Did you ever rent their towels out? I went a couple rotations and figured out that wasn't going to work.
I never went that route. But I do look back now, and I'm really trying to figure out why I even had to rent wool pads in the first place. But I guess there was no means to get them at the time. Is what I'm thinking. So. Uh,
Well, and
there
you
was definitely
you
a
got to
need for the services.
you got to remember too, back then is the wool pad was probably the same price or more than now. And if you look at, you know, that price versus then and dollar value going back to that time frame, that was really expensive. That that was a
Yeah,
big part. So renting them was the way to go because as they wore out, you didn't have to go back and make that huge investment.
right. Yeah,
It's
I
just
mean
crazy.
they were probably $30-$35, if not more. So, um, yeah, the rental probably seemed like the way to go.
So when let's go take us through. When did you figure out? Holy shnikes! I've got something. This is more than just a hobby, or I'm making a. I've got a business. How far into it? I mean, and again, some of you listening are thinking of modern day times. You got to remember, is detailing wasn't nearly respected as it is now. It wasn't known. Um, there was a lot of caveats that went with that made small business. I mean, the yellow pages were a fundamental way of bringing in business.
I
Um,
was
you
I was
know,
just gonna I was gonna say that. So I would say probably the time that I went from working in the gas station and moving up to the single bay at the car wash was probably like, okay. And I had been at it about 6 years at that point, and then realizing like, okay, I've got something going here. Now I'm in a better location. But you're right. I mean, we had, in the yellow pages, when you signed up for the yellow pages, you were committed for a year. That was running that ad for the whole year. And everybody
yep,
wanted to outdo each other, which really almost always backfired. It just, but there was no internet. There was none of that. And really, it was called reconditioning. It wasn't called detailing. And everybody looked down on it. Um, and there was no place to get answers. So everything started with the jobber coming around selling chemicals. If you had a problem, you asked him, and he gave you an answer and a solution, but it was on his truck. It wasn't, oh, this is what you should get it from over here. So that's all there was for training. There was no such thing, like there was no forums, there was nothing. It was really, really hard, extremely hard.
it was.
And that being really young and not having any place to turn to get those answers.
Well, it wasn't like you go to another detailer because back then you might as well be the Crips and the Bloods coming at each other. There is no way that you were going to take it. It's if you guys showed up in the same building, it was I mean, it was a fist fight versus, kind of like it is now to where a lot of people help each other out. And there's different groups and so forth that you really jump in and help each other. So vastly different. Now, flash forward is can you imagine? I mean, even so, we meet in '06. Both of us were, I was just starting out in training. I still had shops going and was, just like you, an operator, right? And things changed. And, remember those discussions is we had probably, a lot of people. I always bring this up. Mark Johnson was there. Paul Apollonia. I always think of him Because here's Paul, not really in the industry anymore, but still involved in the industry. And all of us saying that we have to change things. And I won't say that I think we're the spearhead, that small group that changed the things. How did it go? Why did a small group of people, professionals, come together? What made that change? Why did it start to fuel some fires?
Well, if you remember, so we all met and we only knew each other from our forum names on MobileWorks, and there was about a dozen of us, and it I think we all had the same need, and we found it in each other. We were kind of scattered around, but we all wanted to do better. We knew kind of where we wanted to go, and with the help of each other, we could get there. And we kind of built our own little network, and started pushing forward along with the IDA and each other.
Yeah, and so my point to that is it started with discussions and a group of professionals that we just knew that we could better each other. Is that, we're working on a system called an hour day marketing, and we still teach that today. It's been changed a lot because so much has changed. Matter of fact, our book, I was talking to somebody, and the book I wrote, and it came out in 2012. Somebody was asking me what MySpace was, because back then it was still available, right? And so that's how much, things, if you think it's changed a lot since 2012, just think how much it's changed since, you go back to 92 or 82, somewhere in there. It's not even the same. So by the decades, let's go back through, you're how many years in business right now? You're going into what year?
Uh, I'm at 37 right now, so
So you're closely, approaching that 4 decade mark. What were the aha moments? Were there moments that stand out in your mind that were like, okay, this really changed it for me?
um, realizing that there's enough customers to go around for everyone, and not everyone's my customer. And it took me a
Mm.
long, long time to learn that. You're always you see someone's car at your competitor shop, you're like, oh, that guy or this guy, how come? And then you start realizing that not everybody, there's more than enough to go around, and not everyone is the right customer for you.
Boy, I'll tell you, I like technology. Now, you've been a really an advocate for technology. So how has technology played a difference? What are you utilizing now that we definitely, if you'd say, hey, you've got, you're able, we'd say you're what'll, I mean, what do we got? I mean,
Yeah.
what's that do? It does what? So, but what is there technology that's really, even in the trenches, is there tools? Is there products? What do you think that really made a difference comparative? Like we go back, for instance, both of us remember, I remember when sealants came out, and it was a hard sell to get somebody to move away from a wax to a sealant. And now we got into coatings. And I mean, it's now we're getting into these, advanced coatings that are on the next level, maybe third or fourth generation coatings. So what were some of those aha items that popped up?
Well, I was at an event one time and we were talking, and I said to, of course, everyone was younger than me, and I said, could you imagine detailing without clay, without a DA, or without foam pads? And one of the guys said, well, what did you do? So, those type of things, definitely made a change when they came out. You're right, coatings are definitely a big thing. The technology, I think it, for me, was really understanding marketing and um, trying to find the right customers and listen to the customer base. And one of the things that we started and we're very heavy with for a long, long time was our newsletter, and collecting customers' email addresses was a real game changer for us, as far as
Yeah.
that goes. Um,
So let's jump
DA,
into that. You just open it up right there. You and I, how many hours did we spend on the phone, you know, going back and forth of testing different formats, You came out with a card. Remember your card wanted
Missing.
is, yeah, 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 is missing, or was it wanted?
It looked like a wanted poster, but it actually said
But it was
missing. And then when
right.
you opened it up, it said missing you. We haven't seen you in so long, or missing your car. And
So
that campaign worked wonders. And Mark Johnson used it too. And it really it worked great for us.
So I think why is we went into electronic newsletters. So did you ever do a printed out newsletter? Did you ever print out your newsletters and mail them?
No, I never got that far. And a couple of guys in our group have done some quarterly, like small magazines, and I think I'd like to get to that. More so just to hand out in the cars, so people that, especially new customers, actually know what it is that we do.
Yeah. So we did the old fashioned, we would mail out a newsletter, a printed newsletter. You get it, and it'd be a kind of a trifold, and oh my God, what a pain. It was so expensive. It took forever. We only did it like once a quarter because it took so much time and so much money. And then we went over to electronic newsletters. But even to today, when you and Mark started that missing campaign, is it was so odd for people to get something in the mail that it was unique. So you're a disruptor. All your competition, you don't have too many, but they might be copying you and sending out this newsletter, and then all of a sudden you go back to direct mail and you just killed it. You and Mark both killed it with that direct mail campaign. And so for me, I still see that. I think I've got one around here somewhere. I still have mine that you sent me, that you gave me. And so being a disruptor in your market, I think was a big advantage that you had, definitely Mark had, and others in that initial group.
Yeah, we kind of had something similar to like your Able and all these other software companies. You know, at a certain point, you would get a reminder. So I was using something a little bit different that would tell me when, and then I would mail out the postcards. When we got away from that, and then you've been doing, like constant contact, but I'm getting ready to go back to the personalized postcards in the mail because I think there's a better response right now for that. It's something that everyone's got away from. People didn't never used to want to open their junk mail at home. Now they don't want to open their emails. So I'm leaning
Amen.
towards going back that route. And this is one of the things that you need to do is with technology and everything else, you have to remember that whatever you do now, marketing wise, won't actually take effect for 90 to 120 days. So you have to be a season ahead or plan ahead, and
Amen.
everything that you don't do today will also affect you in 90 to 120 days. So if you're not returning those calls and not doing your follow throughs, that's when you're not going to feel it next week. You're going to feel it 90 to 120 days out.
Yep. Or the opposite. If you are doing it, you're going to be real glad you were doing it 90 to 120 days out because you're going to be busy. And,
So
Chris and I started a new campaign and we do exactly that. And it's working. It's slowly working. And so it's good to see that, you can you can make the gears churn and the money come in.
Hey, you guys brought up postcards, and it's interesting because I have one sitting here in front of me. I thought I'd share it real quick. So I did business with a screen door company a few years back, and they sent out a Christmas card, just a postcard, to their existing customers this year. But the fun thing about it was they weren't afraid to be who they are. Um, they had, they used Merry Christmas, and they said, "May God bless you." They had a scripture on here, and then they had a picture of each team member, and it said, who they were, what their role was. One of them was the dad, the daughter, the niece, so it was a family business. And I hung on to it just for that very reason, because I thought it was a really good example of making that connection with a family-owned business to your customers.
And being proud of it
Yep,
and
and
being
being
okay
proud of
with
it.
being who
Right.
you are.
Yep.
Nobody has to hide behind anything. Everybody, is that I think it's important. So, with that said, so best couple lessons, Jim. I know you've got a couple of them. What's the best couple lessons you've learned?
Uh, I would say realizing what I don't know and asking for help. Um, in the beginning, I just pushed through and made more mistakes and just went the wrong way. Um, really learned to reach out. And then the other thing is listen to your customer and find out what they're looking for and what they want and not what you want to sell them and what will they be happy with, not what you will be happy with. Now, not every customer is the right customer, don't get me wrong there, but sometimes we want to, make the paint perfect, but they care more about the inside. They
Mm.
have a budget, so we try to figure out what works, but really take some time, listen to the customer, ask questions. The first thing I always ask is, how much is it? So the longer that you can delay that by asking questions and finding out exactly what they want, they will feel more comfortable instead of you just throwing out a price from the hip.
Mm. I like it. So I'm not going to ask you. I'm going to reframe this. I'm going to take and get the question a different way. Mistakes you're seeing other people make right now. What are you seeing that you wish you could go through the screen on social media and kind of shake people? I know I've got a short list, but I'd love to hear yours of what do you think is going on right now that you think is you look at it and you shake your head.
Um, some people are overdoing it with these big, huge shops to start right up with. I would think, and not having a plan or thinking they know everything. We all used to think, and some people do, they think they know everything. And the older I get, the more I got into this business, I realized what little bit I didn't know and went and sourced the right answers.
Well, I think it's a big one. Is I think the overhead. I think especially is you got to remember the pendulum goes both directions. We have these we're coming out of a great time. It's still great for a lot of shops, but if things do hardships, maybe you get sick, you have an accident, maybe you're out riding your mountain bike and crash and hurt yourself, can't work as much. Boy, having a big shop to pay for is spooky, isn't it? So I think watching your numbers, knowing those numbers, I think is really important. Importance of mentors. You're definitely a mentor. You mentor me, in a lot of different ways, not just professionally, but personally. How important is it that you have those people in your life?
Very important. So I didn't really have many in the beginning. My father helped me out, and I had one other guy. And then about the time I met you, so there's some of the guys in our group, and it's good to have mentors from in the business and then outside of the business, but our business, and then different age brackets. And the longer you get to know these people that are mentoring you, uh, it opens up, they see the whole aspect of everything and get a better picture and easier to give advice. So kind of instead of jumping around from mentor to mentor, it takes a little bit of time to build up that relationship, but like the relationship that I have with you and Mark Johnson, I mean, those type of things, they go back many, many, many years and they know our history. And it's a lot easier to give the advice and also to receive the advice. It's kind of hard when someone just walks up to you, you have an hour conversation, and they says, "Oh, well, this is what you need to do. You're doing this all wrong." They don't know the background, so you need to build that history.
Right. Boy, that's important. Amen. I love that. I love that. Um, what best describes you? Slow and easy or controlled chaos when it comes to your
I
business
would
growth?
say I would say slow and easy, maybe a little too slow, a tortoise in the hare. Sometimes I get a little crazy, but I think I could have been a little bit faster. I guess I'm a little cautious.
And from an outsider looking in, I think your cautiousness, I've been a little more the controlled chaos, but we arrived at the same spot. And so
Yeah,
what do you want? Do you want a little, not saying that I've had more stress, but I've taken a lot on, right? And I look at your life sometimes and I'm like, I could have not had this craziness and been the same spot Jim's in. Why did I borrow that? I mean, it's good. I mean, you can go back and think about it, but also when we started out, even, during our time together, is that where I kind of my plan, I don't, I think now you could go a lot slower and easier and have a better life. Um, in the modern day. I think it's a little easier to do than when we started. Would you agree?
I would. I mean, there's still a lot of competition out there now, but also there were a lot more back alley when we started, um, bucket brigade and whatnot. So
Yeah.
um, it's definitely a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, it's still hard. I mean, entrepreneurship, if you're going to make it decades, as both of us have done it, it ain't easy, man. Choose your hard. I mean, failing's not easy either. And so I think the slow and easy approach, um, with maybe a little controlled chaos in the busy season is okay. But to have it constant chaos, what's going to have constant chaos is you don't know your numbers. Your numbers are big. You grew too fast. You went too big of overhead, all these things. You not, you got to know there's a time to work in the business. There's a time to work on the business. A lot of people want to jump in, and there's a lot of serious entrepreneurs now that started out 2, 3, 4 years ago. Is they're working on their business. They're not working in their business, and that's great. But that's the minority. That doesn't happen too often. And so knowing that, I think, is really important. If you're starting out once again, all over again today, what would you change?
I would get training, both detailing and financial business, get an understanding of what it means to run a business, and I would write out a business plan. Um, when I started, it was, how much money can I make today or this week? That was,
Yeah.
and what's left over, right? Not thinking anything about taxes and retirement and putting money aside for the 3 months that things get slow. It was all about, well, how much money do I need today? What can I make today? And I can even remember times where I would move customers around because I had someone that was going to pay $100 more that day, and shuffling customers and not treating everyone fair, including myself.
Good response. We go back now 40 years between the two of us, 80 years of business. We've seen economic slowdowns. We've seen inflation go out of control. We've seen housing crisis. We've seen gas price crisis. We've lived through 9/11. The tech bubble. We lived through 2008. All these different things. You're gonna have things pop up, and again, that slow and easy, controlled, is, I think, really, really, I think Jim's done a great job of that. But yet he's turned on the heat enough to where, look at his accolades. Look what he's been on. How many years Air Force One, all these different things that he's done. And so what's your hobby? What do I get to see you do? When do you put the boat in the water? When do you pull it out?
Well, it goes on the water beginning of June and comes out mid-September.
So you watch this guy that hot time period. He's got his photos, his drone shots. Dude, this guy has just built a life. He works his butt off still. He's worked hard to get there. The meaning of tonight, and we're going to move on to Justin here in a second, is to where we want Jim and I and the guys like us. We want you to get there easier and sooner, but you're going to have to pay a price. Just don't break yourself. That makes sense. Jim, any conclusions on that? We're going to jump into the young gun. Get some input on questions.
Without a doubt, but you have one on here and it says, "What mistakes have you made?" And I'll tell you two. One, just thinking I just could keep grinding it out, and really not having a plan. And then the other mistake, more importantly, is I overworked and I really robbed my family of some time that I'll never get back. And I would like to see people really think things through, and hopefully we can help them so that they don't make that mistake.
Amen. Well, I'll ditto that. I did the You're Able stories, right? And the first thing one of the first few minutes, I just wasn't the dad I should have been, not the dad I could have been, not the dad I wanted to be, because the grind. And what happens is, I don't care how strong you are, man. You're talking to two strong men right here that have been through that grind. Is that it's a meat grinder, and it will eat you alive, and you don't want any right now. Both of us were able to take and pull out of that grind soon enough, but a lot of people don't. And a lot of people, and there's no reason. You listen, you're going to be busy, right? You're not telling people that not to work. You're just saying know when to shut down. When know when is enough. Is I have the 3/8 theory. 3/8 of sleep, 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of work, and 8 hours of play. And if you can't get it done, there's going to be days that are a lot longer. You come to one of our training sessions, it's a long week. It's 60 plus hours, right? But that's not the average. I don't make that happen every week, but I did for a while. And as Jim said, looking back, I think you could have still been at the same spot you are now and not abused yourself and had greater dividends in life.
Yeah, I think I caught it at the tail end, but like I said, I still look back and think I could have done it smarter.
Yeah, I agree. And it's not easy to say that. So when we say that, we're not, we're admitting to ourselves, but we're deep down, what we're saying is don't do it. Right? Don't do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You don't do it. All right. So here we go now is we're going to come in and I'm going to jump in. Young gun, my friend Justin's making it happen. So we're going to go over just the same thing, not just building the business, Justin's building the life. We're going to go through. So young Justin, go ahead and introduce yourself, your business, and some facts about you.
All right. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
We got you, man. Loud and clear.
My internet went out here at the shop, so I'm using mobile data right now. So hopefully this all goes well. Good evening, everyone. My name is Justin Archer out of San Luis Obispo, California. I owner operator of West Coast Detailing. I've actually been in the industry for a long time, but I'm kind of having my rebirth, if you will. Things have been going really good over the past several years, and kind of getting the ball rolling and moving right along here. Born in Southern California, moved up to Lake Arrowhead, which was not far from where Renny's training facility is. That's where I got my first detailing gig, actually doing boats at a marina up there. It was a good job for a long time. I got to learn a lot of things. That's the first time I got a rotary in my hand and buffed on gel coat and inside, outside, whatever it was, and operate heavy machinery and worked on the lake and all that kind of good stuff. It was a great thing. And a family member actually called me to San Luis Obispo, and I always like to give credit where credit is due, and without my uncle who actually called me up here, he said he wanted to start a detailing business. He was doing it on the side already and kind of had some customers going and wanted to make a real thing out of it. He called me up here and we made the move. My wife and I actually been together for over 20 years. We just had a baby in June, our first child, a beautiful baby girl. So that's a big change in life right there. Making a great balance as far as work and life goes with the baby and that kind of stuff. We went through a lot of ups and downs when we first started up here. We started off like a lot of people do at first, started mobile in a nice small van. Eventually that small van turned into a big van. Eventually one big van turned into two big vans. And after a while you needed a shop. And you kind of moved and upgraded into something else. And that's where I am now, doing a sole proprietor for a while. My uncle and I actually parted ways. He wanted to go buy a house. I took over the business solo, and I've been doing a solo thing for a while now. Things about me, I love traveling. I love international traveling, and I will contribute that to my wife. She's the first one who kind of get me out of my shell and traveling. I thought traveling was something that I couldn't do, something that I don't make enough money to travel and that kind of stuff, but it's really not true. If you plan it out right and you pay for things ahead of time, and you can really make it happen. And I encourage everyone to get out there and travel. Second thing is motorcycles. I love traveling and I love motorcycles, not necessarily in that order, whatever happens. I ride sport bikes a lot. Recently sold my motorcycle. Baby came, sold the motorcycle only because I want to buy a better truck and use the money somewhere else. I'm not riding right now anyway, so it kind of use the cash was kind of better in my pocket versus sitting in a bike depreciating down the garage and that kind of stuff.
I love it.
So yeah, that's me.
So the reason we brought Justin on is we call him kind of the new generation of dealer. He realized at some point he's got some years on him, but he realized, hey man, I got to change this thing around. And seeing him at training, his intensity, you can see a picture of him here right here. I loved his vision and how he was, the travel, the family, his wife, just everything about him was kind of singing to me. And you could see it clicking in his mind that he didn't want to get to the point where Jim and I are just sharing with you guys that, hey, we had some regrets. I mean, I'm sure he's worked. We're going to hear that right now. But finding that, a lot of the gurus, the balance thing. Listen, let's be honest. I'm going to go. I'll ask Justin this, and then Jim this, and Chris this. Do you guys ever really 100% turn business off for a full day ever, to where it just doesn't enter your mind, Justin?
Not for a full day. No, I can't say that. No.
Jim?
Now, the only time I get close is when I'm on the boat at the beach, but aside from that, it's still always, I don't know if you can ever really shut it off.
Right. Chris?
I don't think you can shut it off. I don't think it's possible.
So, and I'm the same way. I always got little thoughts, but it's controlled. And I don't let it interrupt. When I go to dinner with my wife, my kids, Christmas, all that, this goes away. I've got my wife to where I don't even take my wallet into a restaurant because I want 100% of her attention, because I try to stay off this thing. If she gets occupied with something at night, and she gets up a little earlier than me, I'll get in and fool around. I like my passions. I like looking at cars. I like looking at airplanes. I like looking at real estate, but it doesn't shut off. So now the early days. So what, Justin, you started out, how did you start out? What was your why? What were you doing?
The why, like I said, was really because family called me up here. I was 22 years old at the time. I was going through boat mechanic school and doing the thing up in Lake Arrowhead. But someone offering me partners in a business and being my own boss and going out and trying something new and moving to a different city. That was really more the why, kind of getting out of my comfort zone where I was. Not that I didn't see a future where I was. I just saw more of a future with what my uncle was offering to move up here and start doing that. Yeah.
So how did that turn out? I mean, when you start walking through that progress, did it go smooth, or did you hit some roadblocks?
It did. So he was basically like the financial backer of the business. He was able to get the mobile van going, get all the equipment going. He had a good customer base already. And then I was just the face of the business. I was the blue collar. I was the labor. I was the one that kind of got it off the ground. He had a full-time job doing what he was doing. Our vision was, to have several mobile units up and down the Central Coast. It really wasn't trying to be isolated to just kind of where we were. That's kind of where we chose the business name, which was West Coast Detailing. We kind of wanted to be all around, and the vision was to be a lot bigger and have vans going all around and that kind of stuff. The thing that really kind of stopped that was around the 2008, 2009, when first time I ever saw gas prices hit $5 a gallon, and everything kind of really slowed down, and we went down to just one van. It was myself, 3 employees, 2 vans. It's the first time we really slowed down. We kind of really had to raise our prices just to compensate for gas. People really weren't, if you're going to put gas in your car or get your car washed, they were putting gas in their car, and that was the first thing that really kind of gave us a good hiccup in the road. And then a few years later, it was in 2013, 2014 is when I took over by myself, which was a really good call at the time. Because, when we were just getting started, like most small businesses, you're kind of just getting by, you're kind of balancing on that line of paying the bills and, paying the employees, and everything's just getting by. And when I started doing my own thing, it was a little weight off my shoulders too as well. I didn't, if I have a slow day or if it's raining or I got no work or cancellation, I'm fine taking the day off myself. But to tell someone else that I had no work for them and, they have a family and they have bills to pay and that kind of stuff, it did take some weight off my shoulders. I am at the point now where I would like a bigger shop and I would like employees again now. I'm kind of at that stage now where I'm not going to say more work than I can handle, but enough work where I'd like to spread it around and kind of take some of the labor off my shoulders now, most things did go as planned. We just didn't spread as quickly as we wanted to, and we didn't grow as quickly as we wanted to, and that's really why I will say I went to your training, Renny. What really kind of drew me to you was one day I was driving out to the racetrack early morning, and I decided to put on one of your podcasts. And, when you start talking about the blue collar guy and wanting to help the blue collar guy out, and that's really kind of where I found myself fitting in. I would always tell my customers, my uncle was, like I said, he was the backer of the business for the most part, but I was the face of the business and I did all the work, and I was the face that everyone saw. I would tell most people, my uncle's a white collar side of the business and I'm the blue collar side of the business,
I dig it.
and that's kind
I
of how
dig.
it was for the longest time. And when I took over in 2013, um, it wasn't stressful. I tried to always stay positive, and that's a big thing. Is I'm always trying to stay positive, positivity all the time. And I'm not going to say because the clouds are going to open up and things are going to get better for you, but when you stay positive, you're going to make different choices. When you feel things are going to go the right way and you're staying positive about that, and things are going to work out, and you're confident in yourself, you tend to make different choices in business and in life. And things are just kind of go, there's going to go a little better for you. I'm not saying things are going to be magical, but you'll make better choices that way.
God, I love it. Well, so right there,
Yeah.
you shared a couple aha moments, taking over the business. You had your first slowdown, gas prices and everything else. You had to adjust to that. You did it. What's a couple lessons you really learned out of the whole time that you've been in business? What do you think the couple most important lessons that you'd like to share with other people?
Um, One for me would be a save for the unexpected. I always keep a good float in my account. I only pay myself when it's needed and when I need the money. Um, I tend to like adventurous stuff, and sometimes it comes back and bite me in the ass, and I'll get hurt, and I'll be out of work for a while, But I do try to always keep that 6 months or so float in the account, where if anything does happen, I'll be fine. The business will still be here. All the bills are taken care of. Hopefully I'll get off the crutches and get back to work and everything will be okay. And that was one big thing for me, is when you start getting the money, it doesn't mean you got to go out and spend it. I
God,
like
I love
seeing it I like seeing it in the account, and it can stay there until I really need to pull it out, knowing when to pull out your money and where to put it and that kind of stuff. And there was a quote that I heard, it was on a TED talk many years ago, where it said, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And that really kind of stuck with me. And that was, when you try to show your enthusiasm to customers, and you show your passion to customers, and being honest to your customers and truthful and that kind of stuff, they're really buying you for the most part. You're the one that's going to do the work, yes, but they don't buy what you do, they're buying why you do it. And it was on a TED talk. I forget the gentleman's name. I've seen it being he's had some other things that were posted before. But that was one thing that really stuck with me for a long time.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what, you talked about, I think a good takeaway too was, and Jim mentioned it too, the big shops, you're kind of ready for a bigger shop, ready for employees again. So, lessons learned, but what do you see that on some mistakes, you've, like us, we've been through some hardships, right? You've seen it, you've seen it do this, right? And so when it goes up and down, and that pendulum swings, the same question I asked Jim, what would you like to say to people when you see this? Something stick out to you that you see these common mistakes that blue collar entrepreneurs are making in today's world?
Similar to what Jim said too as well, is actually getting some formal training. A lot of what I did was self-taught, kind of learn as you go kind of a thing, getting some actual formal training. And along with that formal training comes, I guess, the second answer would be networking, and really getting out there and meeting other people in the industry. Right now, it's just, when you're not doing that, it's just you against the world, and it's you trying to hash everything out in your own mind. And nowadays, with technology and social media and YouTube, there's really no excuse to not have something, have an ace up your sleeve, and try to get a little better at your business and what you're doing. It's all at our fingertips these days. Not getting education sooner, not networking. There was a Robert Kiyosaki quote was, the richest people in the world build and look for networks. Everyone else looks for work. And that's what I'm trying to do right now. When I talk about my rebirth in business, is trying to approach things differently and having a different view on things.
It's funny because here later in just a minute, we're going to go over a couple things that fit right into that. I mean, you're going to go, wow, okay. It shows that we're on the same page. The importance of mentors, how important has that been for your business in growth stages?
I would say I've only had a couple over the years, my uncle being one. Um, Customers that turn into friends are others. I got plenty of customers that have turned into friends over time. Mentors are usually selfless, they're doing it out of the love for you and out of the care to
Mm.
see you do better. There's really nothing in it for themselves. And that speaks volumes about their character and that kind of stuff too as well. Um, it's kind of funny. I just came across these two Robert Kiyosaki quotes recently. Um, and the other one, mentor, was if you want to go somewhere, it's best to find someone who's already been there. And that's
Mm.
exactly what a mentor would be.
Man, that's magical. That's,
Yeah.
again, there's sometimes in the world is you are the product. Some people understand that, some won't. And so you've got to be careful on who you're getting your information from, because there's a lot of, we've had, Jim, I don't know what you'd say about this. Both of you really, is the last decade hasn't been too hard. I mean, it's been an easy decade to build business up. And I know that's insulting to some that have struggled, but what I mean by that is go back to the early days, the pioneer days of detailing, and it's a completely different world. And so you need to take advantage of what's there, and a lot of people don't. A lot of people just don't take advantage of it. So, what best describes you? Slow and easy or controlled chaos?
Right now, I'm a slow and easy kind of guy, and sometimes, same thing like Jim said, sometimes a little too slow. But I'm more the kind of person where, everything has its place and everything's in its place, and sometimes that takes time. And I like things to go a little slower. And controlled chaos or organized chaos, I would say I've gotten there now just because I feel more comfortable with the chaos. But I would say I'm more of a slow and easy kind of guy. Yeah.
I like it. I like it. And then again, another question is: you're starting at day one again. What would you change? If you had to go back to the very first day and you had all this knowledge, what's the one thing you'd take with you?
Um, get a little more user friendly with the social media stuff. I did start before, Facebook and Instagram and YouTube was just kind of getting started and that kind of thing, and get myself a little more familiar with using those platforms. I don't, as of right now, I don't have an Instagram, but it's on my list of things to actually get going on. Making videos, getting myself into videos a little more and that kind of stuff. Because it's very simple marketing tools to use that are at our fingertips these days. The device I'm talking on, I'm not on a computer right now, I'm on my phone. The devices we have these days could make our life much, much simpler. You guys were talking about how you did things, before all this, and I remember having to print out MapQuest to find my customers'
Oh,
homes and having big maps, having a full size map in my van so I could go find a customer's home and that kind of stuff. And then when technology really took over, and that's one good thing that has really helped me out a lot, is when I changed everything over and just let technology help you out, using Google Contacts and using Google Calendar. I'm going to do one of the You're Able, demos that they can show me really what it's all about. Because at first I thought You're Able maybe really wasn't going to be for me because I am a sole proprietor, and I thought, well, maybe it's more info and more tidbits than I really need. But I talked to them at SEMA, which was great. Have not been to SEMA in a long time. I went this year, and this year was strictly business. I went there for networking. Like I said, networking is something that I'm really trying to focus on right now. I met Bob and Dave Phillips, and that was great. I've been a PNS user for about 15 years or so, and that was a big transformation in my business as well, was using professional products and having someone really show up every 2 weeks and show you what they got, and trying different things out and that kind of stuff. PNS was actually a really good turnaround for me when I started using them. And it was an
that's
employee that we
awesome.
had in the shop that wanted to use PNS. We were using it was Supreme maybe, or Ardex, or the guys that we had different delivery guys come around all the time. PNS was around every 2 weeks. He didn't skip a beat. He was here every 2 weeks without a doubt. And we didn't use PNS at first only because they were a little more expensive, but when you're trying to produce quality work, and that kind of stuff, and you want a really good professional appearance. And I used to always, when I first started, I would go to AutoZone and I'd go buy some McGuire's, and just buy whatever we had and that kind of stuff. And it made it work. And people were still really happy with their job because you would present a good product at the end. And I
Absolutely.
kind of had it in my mind where, people like the fact that I'm using Meguiar's because they know it, they can go buy it, and then eventually it kind of I flip my ideas like, well, if they can go buy it, why are they
Why am
paying
I
me to
using
do
it?
it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's a good outlook.
why
Cool.
are
All
they
right.
paying me?
Well, let's jump through this. Again, we're going to take a little break here for just a second. We want to thank PNS, speaking of Dynabrade, the Detail Mafia. These guys are part of that. Detailing World. Go over to detailtheworld.com, put in the discount code Renny, get a sweet little surprise at the end. So there's our plug. My takeaways, last 3 pages I'm about to share can change the game for you. Is don't simply think right now. You think tomorrow happens quickly. Each new platform, every time you go up a notch in your local area, is going to require new planning and goal setting, new actions, maybe some things that you don't know anything about. So finding the right mentors and getting the right education, knowing numbers, knowing finance. Right before we went on here, I was having a discussion with our bookkeeper. We have a meeting with our accountant, make sure that we're spending the right amount of money at the year's end so it doesn't go to Uncle Sam. Understanding those things. If it's not written, it isn't happening. We're going to show you some tricks to that here in a second. This is a race. It's a marathon. Run your own race. Don't compare yourself to other people. Get in this marathon. Keep it. It's long term. Don't try to outpace people. Get to your own pace and be comfortable at that pace. Build something that makes for a beautiful life. Is that if all you're going to do is work, at some point that's going to grind you down. If you overwork an engine in a car or an airplane or a motorcycle, anything, what happens to it? It breaks. And so you've got to take and do maintenance, and maintenance on yourself is downtime. Dream more. Allow the kid to come out. Don't be afraid to let that 10-year-old kid just come out and play. And then mind mapping. This is our daughter and I when we were climbing up in Idaho. So dream, vision, plan, execute, repeat. What's this mean? This is something I've lived by for the last 40 years, is if it's a dream, go make the dream happen. Vision how it's going to happen. Write it down, as Jim said. Have a business plan, and then execute it. And then every year, I'm going to show you a slide here in a second. That's not just my next year, it's my next 3 years. That next 3 years gets me to the 5-year, 10-year, 20-year mark. But you've got to dream it, vision it, plan it, execute. Because here's what's going to happen. Your dream's going to change a little bit. Maybe not, but maybe a little bit. Hopefully it gets a little bigger, maybe a little simpler. Your vision, you've got to be able to vision how you're going to go make it happen. Then plan it out, and then you got to go do it. And then every year you got to redo this. Man, Chris will tell you, I dream, vision, plan, execute weekly. I mean, it's constant. It's a constant reality in my life. So don't be afraid to do that. This is my mind mapping. I didn't take a serious close up to it because some of it's personal. But you can see on there is that above that week work less is me. It's my time. But look what it says right underneath that. Volunteer. Is I want to give back to my community. That's one of the things. I want to also take and build legacy into our businesses. What's that mean? It means for other people, not just myself. And so all these different things, this is called mind mapping. I do this every year. I do this on projects constantly. It's been a real game changer. Then I put it into a written plan. We're really happy tonight. These gentlemen came on and shared with us. You're able, and Dr. Colorchip have actually offered up each one scholarship for $500. If you'd like to learn more about that, get a hold of Chris. It's for a limited time, for limited months. It's not for any time in the year, but get a hold of Chris. He'll share the details on that. We want to thank these guys. You're able, for Dr. Colorchip stepping up. Pretty special for them to do that. What's that mean? Is they know the value of our group. They know the value of getting trained. Even if you don't come to me, go get education. We got there's a lot of manufacturers that train. Get something. Also, the next best thing to that you can do is go to junior college and take business finance classes. Is just learn. But those that want to jump in with us, get a hold of us. We'll share this with you. Again, look at the list of people that support us here. This is amazing. Amazing, the amount of people. And with that, Chris, if there's any questions, we'll take a few, and then we're going to get out of here.
Yeah, we have some questions.
Cool. Shoot.
Rick Cole asks, he says, I've had a mobile setup for a couple years, and I would like to be busier. In order to be sustainable in the business, would you need to offer more than just detailing to survive, or would you absolutely need to get into window tint and PPF? Do you guys feel that that's something that has to happen? or can you
Jim,
get
we'll
by
go with you
without doing
first,
it?
then we'll go Justin for that. Justin, Jim, what's your answer to that?
I don't think you need to. I think it takes a long time to build up those customers so that there's always a flow. The biggest thing is building a relationship with your customers. Let them feel
Yeah.
comfortable with you and ask for referrals. They won't, sometimes they just think you're so busy that you don't need help. So reach out and ask for referrals or ask for follow-up work. Do you have a second car? Explain that you're trying to expand your business. Window tint PPF, the other stuff helps, but I don't think it's 100% necessary.
Justin, what do you think?
I would have to agree. Not 100%. I don't do PPF. I don't do window tint. I know a lot of good friends and good people in town that do that kind of stuff. I've never had to offer it. I would have liked to have taken some classes. Sure, it's something that I would like to have under my belt. But as far as needing it to be successful, I have not found the need for that. No.
I'd agree. I think that, those are great add-ons. But again, is control chaos. What's it going to add to your life by adding those things? You got to ask yourself that. And, if you're a small operator and you're doing it your own, both those skill sets, especially PPF, they do take a lot of practice. Is that going to take you? What a lot of businesses do, blue collar business, they add on services that they're not quite ready for, and it takes them away from their main source of income. And then they really struggle because now they've been taken away from how they make their living, and they're learning a new task, which is great. But I think that once you've got staff that can kind of take in and fill in, that's a great thing to add on, but not until you're ready for it. You got to be ready for it, or outsource it like Jim does. PDR, outsource it. So great question, Chris. Another one.
Yeah, I got a couple questions about the IDA. Michael asked, when it comes to the IDA, when is the correct time to join? I recently opened my mobile detailing business this year, and I feel like the IDA is kind of scary looking, from coming from being a hobbyist prior to now being a pro. Will it help with credibility and growth?
Well, it's definitely going to give you credibility. It's an association, so when you think of a realtor, everybody says they're part of the realtor group. So you would be part of that group. But if you join the IDA and just think it's going to bring something to you right away, it's not. You'll get out of it what you put into it. So um, they have a great network. They have forums. They have plenty of webinars you can gain. And then if you really get involved and get on a committee, you can get more out of it. There's a lot of training, things that you can learn through the IDA. But by just signing up, it's not really going to bring everything to you. But if you get involved with it, it will.
Justin, got input on that?
Yeah, I would say for the IDA, for me, it was really confidence boosting. When you're doing it for a long time and you kind of just want to make sure that you're doing things the correct way, and you take some you take some tests and you take some classes, and you kind of realize that I'm doing it the way that the professionals would like us to be doing it, and are doing it. Of course, the certificates on the wall really do help. It's nice, for any kind of detailer to have something on the wall to at least show credibility is nice. I'm not going to say people have searched for me just because I'm on the IDA, but when you go to a mechanic shop, you expect them to have certifications. It shouldn't really be any different for us to have certifications to show that we do know what we're doing.
I dig it. Somebody, and I love to give credit, but I can't remember. She said this, is that, and we used to do the same thing. The IDA, if you market it, that she said, I am an internationally trained and certified, recognized professional detailer. You market that. If you for me, the IDA is, and I hope the IDA starts shifting gears, and instead of membership starts really concentrating on bringing the public to detailers, not so much detailers to the IDA. I think it's time that we switch gears and start bringing the public into what the IDA is and letting them know. But also, Jim said it, if you don't do anything with it, it's like a tool you just don't use. But if you market yourself as an internationally recognized, trained and certified detailer, how much does that stand out in your local market? Probably a lot. Probably a lot.
So related to the IDA, do you guys feel that the IDA will ever standardized pricing, similar to how the auto mechanics shop manual kind of standardized
No,
stuff.
no,
Too
not going
many
to happen.
variables for that.
Yeah, too much market change, too much. Yeah,
Mhm.
we're almost like we're different. We are tradesmen, but there is an art to us a little bit. You know, there is ability, perceive values too. We're too foo-foo-y, and I mean that with all respect. It's a good thing. Is that it's every car's different, every shop's different, and your overhead's different, and the way people respect you and look at you is different. So I just don't think that. I think I wouldn't want them to. I wouldn't want to be standardized. I want to run on my own.
Yep.
Cool.
I'm going to go ahead and try and answer this one. Michael also asked, where is a good place for new business owners to find trainings and more webinars like this? And, for one, the simple answer here is, Renny offers trainings through Detailing Success that you guys can go through me to find out more about. But there's also other trainings in the industry, other training centers. You just got to kind of search around for them. There's probably, I would say, a half dozen credible ones that I would call really credible. And then when it comes to webinars like this, you just gotta kind of plug in and get engaged on social media. That's the best way you're going to find stuff just like this, which is how you found this one. Outside of that, joining the IDA, they have regular webinars that they do. And then when you belong to other organizations such as the Detail Mafia, like these guys do, which you could join after training with Renny, we do regular weekly webinars too. We do usually one a week, sometimes as many as two a week. So there's lots of knowledge to be gained there. And another great source for information is search for podcast. There's different podcasts out there in the industry. Some of them are a little bit more entertainment based. Others are much more knowledge based and stuff like that. But you can do a search for that stuff too and feed your brain that way. Anything I missed there?
What Chris said. Yeah. The nice thing about our training is, we're not for everybody. We do only take 48 people in a year for our 5 days. We do have 1 day training centers all over the country. And we're constantly kind of changing those up. We work with manufacturers, PNS, Griot's, I mean, you name it, IGL. We just hosted one of their commercial coatings with their commercial coating. And so there's a lot of education out there. Just pick the one that you think is going to be best for you. And it's, again, is that Justin said it. Look, somebody that's been there, there's a lot. It seems like right now, everybody opened up a shop, COVID hit, now they're a trainer. We actually documented one person that came to one of our 1 day trainings. And how many days later was he came, he's new.
2 weeks later, he attended one of our 1 day classes. And 2 weeks later, he started hosting his own trainings and giving out certificates.
Yeah. So you got to be careful. You got to be careful.
Yep. I think we got time for one more here. Tucker's got a good question he sent in. How do you balance building your business with maintaining a lifestyle outside of work? We're still in a rapid growth phase, but every step of the way we take on additional work in order to grow.
You schedule your time first. Is that I did a much better job this year of not working as much as I did last year. Next year is going to be the same thing. I've got scheduled hard dates that I'm just not going to, I mean, I'll do light work, but those light work, those weeks, when I'm here at training, it's demanding. It's very demanding. There's somebody, I won't mention him, that does training. Great guy. Got a lot of respect, but that was doing them not a 5 day, but a variation of what we do. And he was doing it monthly and he's backed off. He's only going to do like 6 or 8 a year because it was kicking his ass. So what I've done is I've scheduled out the week after training. I'll do some light stuff, but I'm not going to work. I'm not going to work real hard. I've got to back it off. We did the same thing when we had shops. Is that, for instance, we during the summertime, we're open 6 days a week. But once it got to the normal schedule where we weren't just pounding, is we went to 5 days a week and then we went to 4 days a week. We still paid our staff for a full 40 hours, but we wanted our staff to have a good life. And so I'm going back into that mode that we were in back in 2015 and just going to enjoy more time. But you've got to schedule it, just schedule it out and you'll get used to it. And you also got a mentor coach and train somebody else to take on the workload. And you got to trust them to do it. Don't micromanage them. Let them figure it out. Give them responsibilities. If they're good people, they're going to figure it out. Probably do as good, if not a better job than you would. Delegation's huge, and it's a real challenge for a lot of people. Especially Tucker, you're young, so you're going to probably be dealing with people that are your age or even older. And sometimes to do that because you're a sharp person is tough. But learn to delegate, and you'll be shocked.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I know they're growing, and so if you say, okay, I'm going to do this and set a 1 year mark on it, then maybe that's okay. But you can't say, well, until we get to a certain point. And like you said, delegate and marking off time for yourself. I mean, I just went through renovating a brand new shop. We've been there almost not even a year yet, but I still took all my time off this summer when I wanted to get out on the boat and do stuff, and I just worked around it. Um, it's fine to push hard, but there has to be a deadline to that working hard instead of, and it can't be money. It can't be, oh, when I get $50,000 in the bank. It has to have a stop late point to it.
And let me tell you, to back right off of that, is that there's wins enough. Is I can tell you this, is that what you do is you're training yourself to constantly move that goalpost to bigger goals, and relating hard work to those rewards. Why don't you take and set the goalpost up with smart work? The earlier that you do that by delegation, outsourcing, and then realizing that maybe we don't need to go to this direction. I had a shop that was doing $1.3 million. I was so burned out. Our guys were so burned out. The next year, I cut my staff down. We got a smaller shop, and I cut it down to about 700,000. I made more money for me that year than I did almost doubling it the year before that. I couldn't stand it. And so here I was afraid to do it, and it ended up being more profitable. So sometimes really knowing the numbers, that's where education comes in too. And your partner in business is pretty sharp at that, by the way.
Hey, we had two questions come in about dealership work, so I thought maybe we could talk about that real quick. One of them was just, what is your feedback on doing dealer work? And the other is, did you ever feel like you had to go and do dealership work to kind of fill in the gaps, create some consistency and volume in your business? Before you guys answer, I actually immediately thought of maybe instead of hitting up dealerships, to look for fleet accounts as an alternative. Might pay a little better than dealerships, that kind of thing, and be a little bit more consistent. But what are your guys' thoughts?
I'll share mine real quick. We always had fleets, and we always had dealerships. We started out with an operation in a dealership for 2 years. It was a nightmare, but it paid the bills. We needed the cash flow. I had one person dedicated to that location while I was building the other business up. It got to be they were just too demanding. They're wanting more, paying less, and so we just pulled the plug. What ended up being is we became a problem solver. So we tell them, hey, it's $600 to fix your diamonds in the rough. $600 for the exterior, or $600 for an interior, or $1,200 for a combination. Is they built so much trust in us that we could take a vehicle that was actually really nice, but somebody had just done a number to. We could make it look so good. They didn't care about spending $1,200. They wanted it in our schedule as soon as they could. Did we do a lot of those? No, just a couple a month. But we did it for several dealerships, and we did it for a couple car washes because they're constantly scratching stuff. So we're their problem solvers. You guys got any input on that?
I've never done any dealer work, but I mean, dealer work can be good for when you're getting started, not only for the income, but for the practice. Different challenges that you might come across without high expectations. So it's definitely a good way to get some practice cars and get a little bit of money at the same time. And if it doesn't go as well as expected, you're really only pissing off that dealer who's not really going to tell anyone, versus if you did someone's car mess something up, they might tell a lot of people.
I like it.
Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with doing dealership vehicles. For a while, they were my bread and butter. Rain or shine, they had cars every day. Problem is, they wanted them done yesterday. And they weren't going to pay a lot for them. But dealerships can just supply you with a lot of work. It really gets your name out there. Dealership may tell you about another customer that they have, or it's really just getting more involved in your community and in your town. I think every dealership, for the most part, in my town, I have done work for. I'm fortunate enough now to have not touched a dealer car in many, many years. That transition finally happened one day where I just didn't need the dealer work anymore. But absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. Renny, you talked about, when times get tough, sometimes, hey, you got to go out and get a part-time job. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do just to make ends meet. And if that means taking on dealer work, I know a shop here that makes a good living on just dealer work. That's what they do. They are the dealership detailer, and they got several guys and they do great.
Check this out. Good friend of mine, or good friend of ours, Josh in the Mafia. He does, I won't say how many millions a year. He does. I mean, he's got a retail side of it, but he's doing a lot of wholesale. He's got a huge operation. We got another friend of ours down in the South. Jamie's same thing, is that he was doing really, really well with the wholesale side of things. So you can go out and make a business on it if you want to. You just got to figure out, what's your SOP. Your menu's got to be dialed in. They got to know what they're getting for the price points they're getting. You got to understand what they need, what they want, be on the same page, and go. So there's money to be made. A lot of people rag on dealerships. It wasn't for me on the problem solving side. It was, but other people have figured it out. And Chris, we went long, and it's not my fault. I just want to state that now. I'm not gonna get blamed.
It's all right. That's probably pretty good for right now. I think that covers things pretty good.
Hey, if you've got questions and you want to submit them to us, send them over to us, and I can always go live or something like that. Renny at detailingsuccess.com. With that, we want to thank Justin, Jim. Thank you. Now, there's a reason why you guys kind of remind me of each other. When Justin was here, I was like, man, this guy's like Jim Goguen. There's a lot of similarities to the two of you, but two different, a lot of years in the industry, but kind of two different locations. I think what you guys just shared and laid down is paying it forward. I really appreciate you two coming in. Chris, thanks for organizing this. Everybody that attended, we sure appreciate you being here. Our main goal, again, coming back to it, is just to give back. We hope that you've taken something out of this. Go back. We want to thank PNS Double Black, Bob and Dave, for supporting us. We want to thank Dynabraid. They're the two big underwriters. And then again, everybody else that was on that sheet that you saw earlier, they're a big part of it. So the industry's lifting us all up, and we sure appreciate that. So with that, I hope you all had a Merry Christmas, a wonderful Christmas. It's not over yet. We go into New Year's. 2024 is going to be pretty cool. Pretty excited to get into it, and go out there and thrive, guys. Don't just survive. Make it a thrive adventure. So we'll see you next time. Again, gentlemen, thank you all, and we'll see you soon. Happy New Year, everybody.